Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. People say sometimes the chances of finding a pearl in an oyster are 1 in 12,000. I mean, it's a rare piece to find. But I can firmly say that during my journey of reading, I have just come across such a beautiful novel named as The Seven Moons of Maali, Almeida, written by shehankarunathilaka. He is a great writer from the country of Sri Lanka. Let's have an overview of the novel. It was first published in 2015 in the Indian subcontinent as The Name with the Chats with the Dead, and then later on British publishers, sort of books actually published it, renamed it an edited edition in 2022, The Seven Moons of Maali, Almeida, written by shehankarunathilaka. During that year it won the Booker Prize. The author actually brings in kind of magical realism. He incorporates a lot of elements like that. Even if you want to say just one single thread of the storyline, it is a kind of historical fiction to capture the story of a man struggling to come to terms with his life during the Sri Lankan Civil War. And then actually shehankarunathilaka right now lives in England, and then he looks at his country, how it has been grappling with a lot of gruesome realities in the meanwhile. And his debut novel in 2010 was actually Chinaman, The Legend of Pradeep Matthew. It also actually incorporated cricket, the element of cricket into it, and then looking through that lens of cricket, how the country is developing and how it was. Let's get into the novel in detail. Welcome to LTK Stories. Traveling through the novel, I need to give you a kind of content warning. The novel summarizes in this entire stretch of it, like topics like suicide, violence, war, sexual abuse, and anti-gay bias, and so on. But to give you a plot summary, the narration would be much better. Sri Lanka is at the start of its destructive civil war. Ethnic groups are battling with each other, and political factions and internal aid organizations join this conflict. Mass death has occurred on all sides, victimizing the entire country. Maali Almeida, the protagonist, a photojournalist who documents atrocities, wakes up in a registrar lobby. He is surrounded by people who look disheveled and injured. He registers with a woman named Dr. Rani, whom he recognizes as murdered professor. She tells him he has 7 moons, in which that means actually 1 week span of time, 7 days, to find his light. That means the mystery of his death he wants to find out. A young man named Sena interferes and brings Maali away from the office. They float through the streets of Colombo, and Sena shows Maali his corpse, his dead body, discarded in a lake. Maali realizes that he is dead. 2 men dismember Maali's body and throw his head into the lake. Sena encourages Maali not to seek the light and to use his spirit self to avenge his death. What we went through is we have a main character named as Maali Almeida, and there is also an original character, Dr. Rani. For that reason, I remember about Dr. Rani's narration from the words of shehankarunathilaka while he was present at Kerala Literature Festival 2023. I was telling about Dr. Rani actually existed in 89 because he is bringing back the stories of 89, 83 and so on, and people had criticized him over. Anyway, let's get back to Dr. Rani. Her death was actually a mysterious death, and therefore once the novel came out, this fictional novel came out, during her death, her daughters were just 8 and 9 aged, and once the novel came out, they tweeted, "It is quite moving to see that our mother has come in a fictional novel, but where she really exists." I mean, it was such a complimentary comment from the part of audience of Sri Lanka for shehankarunathilaka to write much more better pieces of novels. There is a mystery surrounding the death of the protagonist, Maali, and he wants to find it out. And once he wakes up from the bed, he finds that there is a box of photos kept under his bed. And then the novel is so superb because it takes you through the realms of ghost, spirit, and they have levels and stories where they have to get their visa stamped, where they move on, and so on. Maali's secret boyfriend is actually Didi. His friend Jackie and his Amma file a missing person report with the police department. Amma bribes the police to investigate his disappearance. The detectives find the two men who dismembered Maali's body, who reveal that they found his body in a dumpster. Next, the detectives investigate Maali's last known location. The rest is for you to read. I'll give you a short background of where the plot is actually placed. From 1983 to 2009, there were ethnic factions in the country of Sri Lanka. And then where one side, the Tamils, the minority, and then the other side, Sinhalese, the dominating group, was actually ruling the country. And then because of that suppression and oppression, in 1976, actually LTTE, under the governance of Veluppilla Prabhakaran, was actually formed for a separate Tamil state, but it didn't end well. I mean, we know what happened in 2009 and the entire collapse of the one side of the nation, and then 30,000 to lakhs people died, and then there were many casualties, there were many mysterious deaths, continuous oppression of the army, and then people were chained, locked up, and then traumatized. All these went on, and then by the coming of the Sinhalese Only Act also, which really triggered the issues in the country, went on for to take such a weightage of the cost of life for the people. Doing the character analysis, we have the main protagonist, the main hero, as Maali Almeida, the dead man. Actually, he is in a search of a mystery. Actually, he wants to find out why he was killed and who had killed him. Then we have a afterlife and then flashback. It's a kind of omniscient perspective and dreams going through. If you do a theme analysis, we will find out that value of human life is well discussed over here, and then there is also a feeling of empathy from the part of Didi, and then Maali's mother, and also Jackie, the friend of Maali Almeida. And then the existing character is Dr. Rani. If you place Dr. Rani and Sena in the two sides, where Rani is telling him, now it is enough, now you go back to your light where the spirits have to join. It is your karma that brings out the mystery of your life. Now you have to go ahead and then find out who has actually killed you. And then there is also a kind of symbolism. That is, one is a Mara tree, that is of Buddhism. Buddhism brings the Mara tree as the symbol of death, desire, and rebirth, and so on. Camera is also a kind of part of the identity of Maali Almeida, where he moves on as a photojournalist into the midst of war, where people are being tormented, and they have to, this is a common man who has to undergo such a great amount of suffering and casualty in a civil war conflict, and as well as the war opposed areas, and such difficult times they move through, and therefore his camera takes everything. And that is actually the villain group actually wanted to destroy those negatives of those photographs, where he wants to find out and tell the world that I had existed in this world, and then these people are the cause of my death. So to say, this is actually a political thriller where the situation of Sri Lanka is brought towards the audience by Shehan, and it is wonderfully interwoven with a lot of stories, plots and subplots, and then we get an idea of geographical structure of the Sri Lankan culture, things like that, ghost stories, and then they have their own cultural bias and so on, which goes on. The narration is absolutely superb. And then these ghosts have got a kind of attachment to come back to life, but it doesn't happen. But he meets Dr. Rani, where he has the river of rebirth. There are such themes which you may not have might heard in your life at all, where Shehan brings all these, and then it's a bit kind of magical realism, but it is wonderful to read on. And then he finds out that actually he was killed with his camera by the man named Stanley. And there are reasons why he was killed, and maybe let it be surprising to you. Once you go through the novel, you will be understanding that. And then this political thriller, actually earlier the war was actually happening somewhere, they felt, but now it is actually happening near Maali, and then Maali somehow gets involved in it because he is a photojournalist. I remember the book of Anita Pratap, which is written on true events of the conflict and the civil war of Sri Lanka, which is named The Island of Blood, where you have a beautiful narration about the true events which happened, the trauma, the atrocities, the disappearance of the people, the anonymous deaths, the killing. Now, when you look at Sri Lanka, actually what I think I mentioned once, you see, Shehan is trying to bring out a kind of answer for all these, why they go through such devastated situation, is that all these spirits are moving around and then they don't get peace, and then he is actually bringing his own version. But there is history, there is also fiction, there is also geography, there is culture. It's actually a blending of all these happening. I mean, for that reason, it's a beautiful narration, it's a beautiful novel. Therefore, I think there is no point in wasting your time to wait to commit to you. I mean, you can just move on to the next bookshop and get the book and then start reading over it, because the realm of reading is going to be actually higher from your part, because it takes you to a different horizon. And I love to actually call this book as a kind of a voice of Sri Lanka, because it has its depth in meaning. And see, unfairly injustice is done to a group of people, and where Maali is actually trying to find out his identity, as well as together with that the forgotten identity of the group of people. It would be a bit dark and grim in a manner, but Maali tries to keep it bit alive. I mean, there are no actually liking group of characters like that, but all these characters will really pop up in your head once you simply sleep on and then move on in your life, because you cannot forget them. They have a different shade of meaning of life. And then the confusion is there. There is a country going from atrocity to atrocity, catastrophe to catastrophe. And all these are actually the real picture of Sri Lanka. And then if you are interested in that kind of political thriller, definitely you should grab this book and read it. Let's wrap up. Let's keep the book in front of you. And then in that case, you will be able to understand much more better. One side you have 7 days of a person, Maali, trying to find out the mystery of his, sort out the mystery of his death and who killed him. And then these 7 moons, by that time he has to go back to the real light because he can't stay back. And he has only 7 days. And then he finds his actually dead body in the lake, Bira Lake, and then the people are actually dismantling or cutting his body into different proportions, and those people are from Velikada prison. That is one of the largest central prisons of Sri Lanka, where a lot of people were tormented, and then they had to undergo such a total difficulty. Because during the civil war, anyone can be taken back to the jail, and anyone can be put behind the bars. Nobody questions anybody. So in that sense, you see, by saying that do not visit its cemeteries, there is a kind of saying that means you cannot go and find out someone's cause of death, because the next moment you will be caught by the ruling party. So therefore, keep 7 days in your mind, keep main characters in the mind, keep the background of the novel, keep the timing, that is 83 to 2009 and so on, and then all these elements keeping in your mind one person trying to sort out the mystery of his death. I think this is good enough from my part, and then I wish you all a wonderful reading time. Let's see with another video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.